Appalachia is full of many, many secrets, and I grew up surrounded by many of them, and some still visit me to this day. Let's talk about it. Did I get your attention? Hopefully I did. So I shared one of my stories yesterday of my earliest memories with paranormal stuff. I don't know what I would call it. I don't know if it would be spirits. I don't know if it's ghosts. Call it whatever you want. I have no idea. All of my stories are 100% true. I have been seeing things since I've been about 3 to 4 years old. I grew up in West Virginia in the Boogie Woods. And I'm just doing a however many part series of basically all of the things I've seen or heard throughout my entire life. And like I said, all of these things are true. They've happened to me, and I literally have no reason to make this stuff up and lie on my TikTok. It'd be embarrassing if I was lying. Let's talk about the ghosts that I seen in my grandma's house. I don't remember how old I was. I would guess age 7 to 10 years old. So my grandma and grandpa would go to church every single Sunday. And once I got a little bit older, I was like into computers and iPads and stuff. And obviously I didn't like, going to church that much. So I wanted to stay home and play on my electronics because in the Boogie Woods, there's no service or Wi-Fi back then. So literally I, Wi-Fi to church back then. There was Wi-Fi at the house. But obviously I didn't want to go to church. It was boring. I would go sometimes though. So anyways, I remember asking my grandpa if I could stay home and I'll keep the door locked. I will do whatever, I just want to play my games. They agreed. They was like, yeah, that's fine. So where my grandma lives, she is literally on her own piece of private land. And then my dad's house was directly beside her. I'm pretty sure my dad was gone. I don't know if he was working, took a trip, at a concert, whatever, but I don't remember my dad being home at that time. And right on the other piece of land beside us was literally our family. And then up on the back hill, we had more family. So it was kind of like our own little, rural, family area, whatever you want to call it. So they left. I don't exactly remember how this all played out, but I remember sitting at the computer desk and playing. And I got up and I went to the kitchen to get something to eat, something to snack on, get a drink, And I just felt this weird, energy or this presence. I just felt like I was maybe being watched or something. But I was a kid, so I didn't really know how that feeling, or what that feeling meant. Does that make sense? So I went back and I sat at the computer and I felt something in there, watching me. And I remember looking, out of the corner of my eye, and the couch was, facing. So here's me at my computer, right at the computer table. And then the couch is, across the living room, but, facing that way. And I remember just, seeing someone out of the corner of my eye. And I remember turning my head and looking over. And it was this elderly lady sitting on the couch. She was, gold, and she was glowing. I know that sounds so crazy. And I didn't feel like this was a negative energy or bad spirit. This was, one of my only encounters with something that didn't feel bad. I've had encounters with things that feel safe or feel good, or some that don't feel so good, or some that are really scary. But I've had more probably scary experiences than good. So I looked over and I had to I looked at the corner of my eye, seen something, doing whatever on my computer with my snacks, whatever. And then I had to take myself back and, look back. And I don't know how to explain it. It was this elderly lady. She had very short hair. She had on Sunday service, church clothes. She was in I think a floral dress, a long dress. It was just giving church vibes. And then she had on one of those headpieces that some women wear to church. It was a little hat, a hairpiece with a flower on it. And it was a little hat with a flower on the front. And then how the veils are, those little veils. Obviously not a wedding veil, but it was just a little church one. I don't know how to explain it. So whenever I looked at her, I just remember her being golden and warm and had light. She was kind of clear, but an outline of golden. I could kind of see some detail on her face, but not much because the veil covered half of her face, but it was a sheer veil, but I still couldn't see her face that well. And I just caught a glimpse of it for a second, and then she was gone. And I just remember seeing that, and I was spooked because I was a child, but I don't remember feeling like any negative energy from that. But that was another one of my stories, and part of me likes to think that was potentially my granny visiting me. I could be wrong. But my grandma's mother was alive whenever I was very young, and I have a few memories of her. Not many because she passed away when I was young. I can't remember if she had passed in my grandmother's house or if they had took her to the hospital and she passed on there. I would have to ask my grandma if she passed away in the house or not. Like I said, I don't remember. But the woman just kind of resembled my granny, I feel like. And I don't know if that was maybe like her visiting me as a child. The only side that I remember of her was, I'm not going to say the bad side, but she had Alzheimer's, I think. Dementia. I'm not sure what it was, but she had something right before she had passed, and she struggled. She was kind of hateful and moody, but whenever I seen that like ghost or whatever you want to call it, it just seemed like a very like nice elderly woman just sitting there on the couch just watching me, and then she was gone. And that's the only memory I have. I don't remember if she just poof vanished into thin air. I don't know if I turned my head and then turned back and then she was gone. Don't remember because I was so young, but that is another little story that I have. And if you guys are interested in any more stories, let me know, and I can share my other experiences that I had growing up in West Virginia.
Story time on the 8 months I spent feeding a vampire. And if you're into that dark, twisted romance shit, you're definitely going to want to stay for this one. I was about 21 or 22 years old. This is my midnight ballerina days. One night, I'm working at the club, and in walks in one of the most finest men I've ever laid my eyes on. This guy reminded me a lot of Benjamin Bratt, but like sexier, like Benjamin Bratt when he was in his prime, but like just way finer. He's wearing this really nice suit, smells amazing, like perfect teeth. Just everything about this guy was like flawless, and all the girls were looking at him. One by one, the girls, go up to him, talk to him, offer a dance. He's making small talk, but he's not getting any dances. So I walk up to him, start talking to him, and something about him just felt so familiar. Like I was so comfortable with this guy. I felt like I had known him for years. So we're talking, and we were talking for a while. It must have been like an hour. But I was just so like into the conversation that we were having, and he ends up asking me for a dance, and I'm like flattered. I was not expecting that. There was a lot prettier girls there. He turned out a lot prettier girls that night, but he wanted me, so I was like, okay, fuck. So we're in the VIP. I'm doing my thing. I'm doing my little dance, and in the light, he notices my arms. So I used to like not be nice to myself. Like I used to hurt myself. And he notices the scars. And he becomes almost like fixated on them. He's so fixated on my scars that he actually tells me to sit down, like to stop dancing. He wants to look at my arm. And he's like caressing them, and like I don't know, something about the way he was caressing it was very sensual. And he even started to like smell my arm. Like I know that's really weird, but he brought like my arm up to his face and was just like smelling my arm. And I was like, what? Like, okay. And while he's rubbing the scars on my arm, he's looking me in my eyes and telling me, like, you are perfect. Your pain is so beautiful. That's exactly what he fucking said to me. Mind y'all, I was a dancer, so like I had seen and heard a bunch of creepy shit. Like I didn't scare easily, but I was kind of like, this is very interesting. And I'm not gonna lie, it was something about him caressing my scars and putting his lips against them that made me feel seen and beautiful, and it was so sensual. So I finished my dance. He thanks me, gives me a fat tip, walks out. He ends up coming back every day for like the next week and getting a dance for me. So one night I'm in the back with him, and he's doing his like little fixating thing on my arm. And he asked me, he's like, "Do you think you could do that again?" Like looking at my arms and rubbing my scars. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, and he's rubbing his fingers across my scars. He's like, could you do this again? I'm like, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking me. Like, do I feel like hurting myself again? He's like, no, not that. Like, if I gave you money, could you do that to yourself? And I'm like, dude, you're starting to freak me out. Like, what do you mean? What are you looking for? Like, what's your thing? He ends up telling me, he's like, I really enjoy the taste of. So I'm like, like a normal fucking person would have gotten really freaked out, but I'm not a normal fucking person. Y'all know me. I'm like a bitch loves a good plot. I know it's gonna end up being the death of me one day. So I'm like, ooh, you little vampire, you got a little vampire kink. He kind of like shrugs his head, like, yeah, you can call it that. And he offers me $800 a feed. That's what he said. I'll give you $800 a feed. I'm like, 1,000. He's like, done. So fast forward, we end up making a date for the feeding, and he actually wants to take me out on a date though. So we go to this nice restaurant. He orders for me. I was fine though because he ordered the steak, and I would have ordered that anyway. So I was really happy with that. And he doesn't eat. He just orders a glass of wine. So we end up going to one of his properties, or at least that's what he told me. He told me that he was in real estate and he owns a bunch of properties, and this is one of his properties. And it is this beautiful, I don't know if it was a mansion, like I don't know what technically makes a mansion, but it was this big ass beautiful house in the Hollywood Hills. I know y'all are like losing your fucking minds right now. Like, bitch, what the fuck? He could have been anybody and done anything to you. I know. We get in this house, there's candles everywhere. There's a fire already rolling in the fireplace. I'm telling you, it was like a scene out of a fucking movie. He asked me to lay down on this really pretty chaise lounge that was by the fireplace, and he pulls out this knife. And I remember this knife, it was a pretty knife. It was like in the shape of a feather. So I'm laying down, he brings the blade over and he asks me, he's like, do you want to do it or do you want me to do it, the incision? I'm like, you know what? It's for the first time, I'll do it. So I make my incision and he starts to eat. And it was something about the way that he was eating that just, I don't know, it felt really intimate, really sensual. Like it gave me literal chills. I'm getting chills right now just talking about it. And something in me was just like I wanted to eat him too. Like just desire just grew inside of me. I almost felt like I was in a trance and I got this rush that I have never gotten from any substance that I've ever taken in my life. And it was like instant addiction, that rush that I was getting from him feeding. I've never felt that rush again to this day. And I end up jumping his bones. I told you I felt this desire to just consume this man. And that was to this day the most amazing sex I have ever had in my life. So fucking passionate and just, it was just fucking crazy. And that just became our thing. Like I would go over and I would feed him and he would end up fucking feeding me, feeding my fire. And I can already hear y'all in the comments. So you were pretty much an SW worker. It was not like that. He was not paying me for that. He was paying to feed. And the other stuff, I was just giving it to him, honestly. In the aftercare, my gosh, we would always take a shower afterwards, and he would pull out his little first aid kit and clean me up and disinfect me and bandage it up and make sure like I was okay. And for 8 months, this is what we did. We would go out to a nice dinner. He would order me the steak. It had to be steak. And I noticed every time we linked up, it would be like nights that were raining. I, I don't know why the rain, but that was just something that I noticed. And in those 8 months that I spent with him, I ended up making 12K with 12 different feedings. Not only did I make 12K, but it seemed like everything in my life was just like on the up and up. I was making the most money I've ever made at my work, at my club. Like, I was having good luck. Like, I just had everything. And he would literally glow after each feeding. Call me fucking crazy, but I felt like every time I fed him, he looked younger and stronger. And the only reason why the feeding stopped is because I told him, I didn't want to keep doing that to my skin because I had already had a lot of damage from the prior times of me just hurting myself. And he completely understood. He was sad about it, but he completely understood, and he gave me like one last like really big tip. He gave me like a $3,000 tip, and that was that. Like I never saw him again. He never came back to the club ever again. And like a year or two later, I drove past that house, like just curious, and I don't think he lived there anymore. I'm not even gonna lie. I was trying to see if I can get some D. That's how amazing it was. I circled back 2 years later. And y'all can judge me all you want. I don't care. I've got my little kinks too. And I was a fully consenting adult. So what do y'all think? Vampire? Or just a guy with a weird kink?
Should we show him the older homestead?
Yeah, let's go. As you know?
No, it's not. No, it's not. Was that you?
Yeah, that's on either side.
It went to both.
Yeah.
You guys want to hear a scary story? It reminds me a lot of Insidious, but it's real. One time when I was babysitting these two girls, talked about them in a video before this. We were going to call the older one Luna and the younger one Aura. That's what I called them last time. I was babysitting, and the older one had an imaginary friend that she called Pete. I would always sense weird energy in this house. Disturbing, dark, like not good, friendly Casper the Ghost. And then one time, the oldest Luna at the time was, I want to say she was 3 or 4. And the baby, Aura, was like 6 months old. And I had put Aura down for bed. Put her in her little swaddle, got her all set up. She was snug as a bug, cute, perfect sleeping. And me and Luna were out in the living room because I was like, okay, we can play one game together like before you go to sleep because Aura obviously went to bed a little bit earlier. I think we pulled out like Candyland, some board game, which obviously she doesn't know how to play the ins and outs and the rules because she's 3. But when we were playing, she had another little character and it was Pete's, right? And every time, I swear to God, I would look away, I'd look back and it would move, and she'd be like, oh, Pete moved it. And I'm like, okay, Luna, like, you obviously moved it, Like, she's 3, and I know she's just like, she doesn't know how to play the game. Now I know it was literally this dark spirit that was moving it, but stay with me. I'm like, okay, Luna, sure. And then out of nowhere, we're playing, and the TV was on in the background, excuse me. And Luna goes, I love this song. And I'm like listening. I'm like, what song, baby? Like, I don't hear any music. And she said, oh, the song that Pete is singing to me. She said, it's a song that my daddy plays on his guitar because their dad played guitar, I guess. Like, I'd always see the guitar. Sometimes it'd be in the living room or sometimes it'd be in the parents' room. Like, when I'd go in there to grab stuff for the kids, it was just, like, always propped against a wall. And I was like, oh, that's nice. Like, remember what we said about Pete? Because I told her I didn't want her talking to Pete because, again, this felt like a dark energy. And it sucked because every time I was there, I felt like he was sitting in between me and her. Like, he was always, the spirit, Pete, was always hovering. It would never go away. So anyways, I'm like, what song? Blah, blah. And she's like, I'm trying to get her to describe to me again. She's 3. She doesn't really know how to describe it. And she says, no, Pete said he'll play for you. And I said, no, that's okay. Me like, want anything to do with it? She said, no, he'll play for you. Just hold on. So I ignore it and we start playing this game again. Just moving little pieces across the board. And all of a sudden I hear the strum of a guitar. Just a solo strum, like an off chord. And I just get chills down my back because at this time the guitar was in the parents' room. I only knew that. I hadn't gone in their room that time, but because I heard it and their door was shut. And Luna jumps up. She's like, oh, I told you, Riley. Like, I told you. Pete said he'd show you the song. It's my favorite song. And I'm terrified. Like, I'm trying so hard to act cool. I don't know how this little girl is not so scared. But I'm just like, oh, okay, hold on. Let me just go look real quick. Because my immediate thought was like, maybe somebody's in the house. Like, a real person. Because that sounded way too real. It literally was just a strum of a guitar. So I go into the parents' room, I turn on all lights, the guitar is just sitting against the wall. Nobody's in the house, I do a sweep, and I'm like really disturbed because every sweep I'm doing, I feel like something is just hovering and following me into every room I'm going into. So I finally sit back down with her, I'm like, okay babe, let's watch like 10 more minutes of the show and then like we're gonna go to bed. When I sat on the couch with her, it was the first time I felt like not super heavy, overpowering energy, and I'm like, whew, okay, like. But anyways, I was like, okay, this feels a little less heavy. Sorry, my dog's drinking water in the background. She's so loud. So I'm like, okay, I can breathe a little bit. And I pick up the baby monitor right next to us. You guys know what's coming. You've seen the scary movies because it literally was just like that. Pick up the baby monitor to check on Aura. And I literally gag when I think about this because it was so terrifying. I see a hand, right next to the baby. She's sleeping, she's swaddling, and it's a creepy hand where the nails are like this long, and it's just this black shadowy hand just right next to her. And again, this is the first time I said I felt relieved, like I wasn't being followed. It's because it went in the other room. I freak out. I literally sprinted, ran, busted into Aura's room, woke her up because I came in the door so hot. She was crying and just felt that energy in that room was disgusting. I pick her up, I bring her back out to the living room. I'm like trying to explain to the parents when they come home, like they're gonna think I'm insane of why their kids are still awake. And I'm sitting on the couch with the baby and with Luna, and I forgot to turn off the baby monitor. And I literally hear just disembodied voices coming from the baby monitor. Terrifying, out of nowhere, loud. And I literally just shut the baby monitor off. And the baby ended up falling back asleep in my arms. Luna ended up falling back asleep, and she like fell asleep on me, like her little head was on my shoulder. When the parents came out, I was like, sorry, they're just like so sweet, and they just wanted to sleep out here with me. Because I tried again to, like I've explained this in the other video, but I tried to kind of bring it up to them before, how like something I thought was going on in their house paranormal, and they looked at me like I was fucking insane. So I knew I wasn't getting anywhere with that. But that was also one of the terrifying times I experienced babysitting for those kids.
You see, playing hide and seek in the dark is not a good idea, because instead of finding somebody that you were playing with, you will find this, or even worse. You don't know what I'm talking about and you're asking yourself, who the hell is this? Well, I need you to hear the full story to understand everything. But before that, you know what to do. Save this video and come back to it at night so it's more enjoyable like that. I hope that you turn the lights off because this story is crazy. So, basically, it all started when a group of kids gathered together to play a game which was hide and seek but in the dark. The group of kids I'm talking about were actually cousins, and each time there was a family reunion or something like that, they would gather in a big house to play hide and seek. Hey now, in this group right here, one of them, we will call her the child, was so good at this game, okay? She basically knew the best spots. I'm sure that you will find your purpose in life before finding her, okay? She was that good, and each time she gets the chance to hide, you know that the game is not finishing soon. So one time the cousins were playing together, and the child that I was talking about was hiding. But you see, she was hiding for too long already, because like I told you, she's so good at this that nobody could find her. But while she was hiding and waiting, she actually had to learn a way on how to entertain herself. Think about it, she knew that each time that she will hide, she will stay there for a long time, so basically she will get bored. So in order to not get bored while hiding, she created something that she called a finger game. You know, she was not throwing gang signs or whatever. No, she actually was doing something like See, while she was playing, a cold breath whispered to her ears and basically said, that's a creative game. The child was looking around trying to figure who did this, but you see, she couldn't find anything. And being in the dark made it even harder. Okay bro, stop yapping. This was one of the kids you mentioned before, you know, the cousins. Since they were playing hide and seek, somebody found her and did this. Yeah, well, no, because the voice that she heard was actually a deep male voice. And let me tell y'all that none of her cousins speak like that, even if they try to. So now the child, being a child and scared in the dark, literally froze. She was so scared that she started moving her head just like that, trying to figure out who did this. But then this happened. Now, while she was looking, someone or something grabbed her shoulder from behind. And this is where the child was like, man, get the hell out. She started running and left that spot. So now she left that spot and she regrouped with everybody, including the ones that were looking for her. And she was basically like, why the hell would you do this? So everybody else were like, huh? What the hell are you talking about? But hey, you lost because we technically found you. Man, screw that. I lost because of y'all. Somebody got the idea of whispering to my ear and then grabbed my shoulder. I'm just asking who did this. Bro, we just told you nobody did. We didn't even find you in the first place. Did you forget that you're the best player here? Oh, thank you. I get that a lot. Stop. But anyways, if it was not you, then who was it? We don't know. I mean, where were you hiding anyways? So now, they're going together to the spot where the child was hiding. So we know she's leading the way, and she basically goes like, you see, I was hiding in this spot right here. All you gotta do is to open the door. Surprise, the door was locked. Okay, that's scary, because if the door was locked, how the hell did she enter in the first place? I mean, she was hiding in this spot. only means that she was only imagining this part the whole time, and this creature she was talking about was trying to drag her into something dangerous. Now, I mean, if you think about it, there are only two possible explanations to this. The first one is she was never hiding in this spot, and that thing that whispered to her ears and grabbed her shoulders was responsible for this illusion. Second one is she actually was here, okay? But when she freaked out and decided to leave the room, that creature decided to lock the door. Either way, this was traumatizing for the child. I mean, she was just a little girl, and I need you to imagine yourself in her place. Okay, this was really scary, especially for a child, but you know what they say, time heals, something like that. Okay, nobody have ever said this before. What I'm trying to say is, when you grow up, the impact will be less important. Because when you grow up, you will basically forget some of this, or at least not get all the details, so it will become less and less scary. Not if this thing decides to show up again.
Spooky Stories. Tää on mun seuraajan kertoma, eli tää ei ole tapahtunut mulle. Olin 8-vuotias. Olin kaverillani yötä ja me päätimme pelata totuutta ja tehtävää. Kaverini kysyi minulta totuus vai tehtävä ja vastasin tehtävä. Kaverini talon vieressä asui vanha pappa. Kaverini sanoi, että juokse vanhan ukon oven taakse ja pimpota 10 kertaa, jonka jälkeen juokse pois. Toteutin tehtävän. Ja kun olin juossut pois, niin katsoimme kaverini kanssa vanhan papan ovea, mutta kukaan ei tullut avaamaan. Menimme nukkumaan. Kaverini nukahti, mutta minä en saanut unta, sillä mietin vain sitä tehtävää ja että miksi ovi ei auennut. Kello oli noin 12 yöllä. Yhtäkkiä kuulin, kun alakerran ovi pamahti auki. Hätäännyin tästä tosi paljon ja pelkäsin, että se on se pappa. Aloin herättelemään kaveriani. Hän sanoi kuitenkin, että minä kuulin vain omiani. Yhtäkkiä huoneen, jossa nukuimme, ovi avautui. Käänsin äkkiä kylkeä poispäin ovesta ja kuulin ihan kuin kaverini isä olisi tullut kaverin sängyn viereen ja toivottanut kaverilleni hyvää yötä. Tuli aamu ja heräsimme siihen, kun ovi sulkeutui. Kaverini meni katsomaan, että kuka oli sulkenut oven. Kaverini meni vanhempiensa huoneeseen ja kysyi isältään, että minkä takia hän oli käynyt sanomassa toisen kerran hyvää yötä. Isä kuitenkin sanoi, että ei ollut käynyt toista kertaa sanomassa hyvää yötä.
What the fuck was that? Bro!
What's going on around you?
I don't know. I'm frozen. I am frozen.
Did the window
Sean.
break?
This is the scariest camping story I've read so far, and it is specifically about Girl Scouts. So let's get into it. And I just want to be super clear, I randomly picked this story from my inbox, and it just happens to be one of the scariest ones I've read. But this story comes from Hannah, who immediately starts describing a Girl Scout camp. And that immediately drew me in because I used to be a Girl Scout, and I know exactly what these sleepaway camps look like, and they are absolutely terrifying to begin with. And just to set the scene, every Girl Scout camp that I've been to is literally in the middle of nowhere. And I'm talking like cabin in the woods kind of vibe going on where you have to like walk to the outhouse kind of thing. I don't know how much Girl Scout camps have been renovated since the story or since I've been a Girl Scout, but that's my experience and that's this girl's experience. Anyways, this girl goes on to describe the campsite that they were staying at. And it is exactly the way that I was describing it to you. There are 4 cabins. She was staying in cabin number 3. And in these specific cabins, this is important, you always sleep like in bunk beds or like in paired cots. And you always have a buddy to do things with. And again, this is just obviously for safety. And if you have to get up in the middle of the night, you're not just walking in the middle of nowhere in the dark by yourself. And that's exactly what the story's about. Hannah wakes up in the middle of the night and needs her buddy to wake up with her to walk to the outhouse. Mind you, the outhouse is like 3 to 5 minutes away. And her bathroom buddy is sleeping on the top bunk next to her. So she kind of turns over and goes to wake this girl up. And as her eyes are adjusting to the dark, she can see this girl sitting up in her bed looking straight forward. And Hannah, thinking that this is her bathroom buddy, is like whispering her name, when all of a sudden, this girl slowly turns her head to look at Hannah. And as this is all occurring, as what she thinks is her bathroom buddy is starting to stare at her, she realizes that the girl she's trying to get the attention of is still laying down fast asleep in her bunk. And the moment Hannah realizes that that is not a Girl Scout, she throws her pillow over her head and tries to go back to sleep. And as she's trying to fall back asleep, she starts to hear something. And it is another Girl Scout calling her name. And it's specifically the girl who's sharing a bunk bed with Hannah. And Hannah can still see this thing like looking at her. She peeks her head over and this girl is like, "Do you see that too?" And immediately Hannah says, "Yes, I see it too."
Somehow they gather up the courage to get up and go to the bathroom with each other. And by the time they got back to the bunks, this thing was gone. And they have absolutely no idea what this thing was. And they decided to tell their troop leaders about what had happened. And all these adults said back to them was, oh, well, that'll make a great story for the campfire tonight. And I guess it's also a universal thing to tell ghost stories around the campfire at Girl Scout camp. But nobody believed them, not even the other cabins, nothing. And the girl who was sleeping in the bunk bed had literally no idea that happened. Hannah and this other girl said that the girl woke up fine and she was actually in a really good mood and literally had no idea. And I don't know why, but this story just reminds me of when I went to Girl Scout camp and how freaking scared I was that I was going to see something like this. But that is also why I only made it through 2 Girl Scout camping events, 1 tent camping event, and 1 cabin camping event, because I was just so paranoid something weird was going to happen, especially something like this. But anyways, that's going to do it for me. Stay tuned for ghost stories.